the great things my dad did when we were kids is, and this was back before, the internet or anything like that. He was like, me and my brothers, you're going to learn to type. That's the most important thing. And we learned as little kids, playing video games there was like games you could play to learn to type. And so I'm like a secretary in terms of typing. So everything is straight into the computer. But I write 5 or 6 pages every single day. And that takes a level of intensity that I know if I could do it physically, I could probably do some sports, really well.
Is that part of the discipline for you, just to write every single day and not break that chain?
It is to some extent. I have a lot of rituals and I have a lot of tricks to write, which I think are really important. And so when I'm writing a book, it's by page and not by time. So you don't say I'm going to write 5 hours, because that is, you could write 10 pages or you could write no pages, but you'll be frustrated either way. But if you say I'm going to write 6 pages today, maybe I'll be done in 45 minutes. Maybe I'll be done in 5 hours. So my day can be very short in terms of my writing day, but I do a page number, per day. When I'm not working on a book, I don't force myself to write. It's got to be project driven. But when I'm doing a project, it's like I'm going to do 6 pages every day this week, and maybe my day is only 2 hours long, and that's great.
Did that process change once people started to pay attention and you received the acclimates? Because I used to be a freelance illustration artist and I went to school for it. I remember at first when I used to draw and do art, it was just for me. I would hide it. I didn't want anybody to see it. I thought it, sucked. And then as I got better and I would show it, people would go, oh my gosh, you drew this. And then it changed for me. I almost was doing the art and thinking, how are people going to perceive this way more than I did in the past? Did you experience that same thing or something?
There's definitely a point, when you start, when you know that 1 million people are going to read something, as opposed to when you don't know if anybody's going to read it, you definitely write very differently. And I think you get better in some ways because you're not just indulging yourself. When you're writing for yourself, you tend to get flowery and indulgent, and you're trying to write great literature. When you know that you're going to be selling this, it's going to be the first readers are going to be, people in airports and things like that. You really want to make it a great story and fun and exciting. I do think that you absolutely change based on that. And it does become much more of a business. There's a lot more people involved, right? When you're struggling writer, it's you writing and then getting rejections. But when you are writing now, there's agents and publicists and publishers and movie studios and actors, and who's going to be reading this book first, even before it comes out. So it's a totally different game. But in terms of how I write, I've run so many books now that there's such a rigid process to how I do this. Someone's pitching me a story and I'm like, okay, that's a really cool story. Then I spend a couple months in the research phase, hanging out with those people, talking to those people, living the story enough that I can write it. And then I write an outline, which is very strict. And it's so strict that I know the page numbers of every chapter in the book. Wow. And I never even miss by a page. And then when I start writing, I've got all the research, I've got the strict outline, everything is done, and then I can just write. And then it's the 6 pages a day until I'm done. So it can be, a month and a half of writing or 2 months of writing, and it comes very quick. And so that's, I'm very rigid about that.
Is it hard to let it go? Is it hard to say this is done? Or
no. I have it so planned out that I every chapter I'm just following this skeleton. So you've built this skeleton so well that you never have to worry about that sort of thing. You know what the ending is. You know what's in each chapter. You have your research already done for every chapter. So there's never that point where I'm like, oh, how does this end? Like I know every chapter in this book when I start. And that's the key, I think, the outline. And I hate outline. Everyone hates it. It's miserable. But that's the key to a book, I think, is having a very good outline.